Bam, we're back. So our next guest the next guest today is her name is Andy. Let me read a little bit of Andy for you. So Andy is an artist and explorer of the world. She likes pomeranians, ice cream, and looking at bugs. She has a talent for art from a young age. She had a talent for art from a young age and continued to nurture this as she grew and has now made the creation of art her full-time 24-hour lifestyle. She's enthusiastic about learning in all of its forms, functional and tangible, as science and history, and the abstract and conceptual, such as understanding emotions and human philosophy, psychology. Aside from being curious about the world, she has worked in many fields. She has been a teacher, an illustrator, a writer, customer service specialist, a makeup artist, a model, an office manager, and many other things, all which inform her present process and direction. Most recently, and art-wise, Andy has painted reproductions of paintings, worked as an artist assistant creating murals and interior art for homes, created portraits for the University of Toronto and other projects, some of which are top secret yet to be revealed. Ooh. At the moment, Andy is making tattoos. So, let me welcome Andy when she gets here. So, waiting for her to come on for now, and let's just see. I've actually known Andy is my brother's wife, aka my sister, and also one of my close friends who I've grown really close to over the years as she's become more and more into our lives. So we're just gonna wait for her to come on, and then we will begin. Let's see. Do 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 do. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna redo this in a sec. I just want to get. Oh, there she is. Bam. Okay, there we go. Things always work out. Let's welcome Andy. Yo, yo.
Ah, it works.
Yes.
Yay.
Hello, sis. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. Just reading your bio, and then after your bio, I'm like, I don't know where
Ah.
she is.
No, I was trying to find a plug because my phone's on 55%. So I was like going around to every plug, like with my little plug, trying to like find a place to plug it in. So anyways, I'm good now.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So yeah, I read a little bit of your bio, and I'm just kind of curious if you can just tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, I'm an artist and I'm a tattoo artist. And so I guess I'm an artist that is presently exploring the world of tattoos and how to make tattoos and tattoo design and learning about skin. And I always tell everybody that I've done art all my life and I've done all kinds of art, different things like sculpture, gold leaf, whatever. And tattooing is the most difficult by far. So there's a lot to learn. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, but it's super fun and wonderful and rewarding. Yeah. And
That's
that's a little bit
beautiful.
about me.
Beautiful. So tell me about growing up. Tell me about school. Tell me about I'd love to know the thought process. What got you into art? How art played a part in your life? I'd love to hear it all. Mm-hmm.
Are we having connection problems? I just want to make sure because you went dark.
Yeah, yeah, we're back. I think the connection on your end isn't the most stable, but it's
Really? No.
okay. It happens.
No. Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, so I was growing up in Toronto, Canada, and I loved doing art from a very young age. I loved to do, I don't know, anything artistic, anything I could get my hands on. And then I also just loved, I don't know, working hard, getting good grades, being in the garden, looking at worms. Yeah, that was pretty much my background and my history. I was also a part of Girl Guides. I think Girl Guides really helped to shape me as well, because it allowed me to explore and do things that I wouldn't have really had access to, different things about like camping and how to make a campfire and how to be safe about a campfire and how to make s'mores and how to put up a tent and whatever other things. There were a million other things, obviously not just camping, but Girl Guides was a really big part of my growing up. And my grandparents too, my mom's parents, I spent a lot of time at their house. They had a beautiful garden, and my grandmother was an amazing cook as well. So they had huge influences on my life. But yeah, going into school, it was just majorly artistic all across the board. So.
Mm-hmm. So did you go to an art school, or where was art found in your life?
Well, my mom tried to instill a lot of different types of art within me. She took me to the symphony, she took me to operas. Like, she wanted to make sure that I was going to museums and doing things like that. She's a teacher. So I think that for her, education and the exposure to different types of cultural, you know, I don't know, going to see live music, seeing different types of art. I think that was really important for her. And going to the library, like, I loved going to the library when I was young. That was the most fun for me. I would just go and find books, and I would go through like different stages of studying. So when I was in grade 1, or no, was it grade 2? I was obsessed with sharks. So I wanted to read everything about sharks. And then I was obsessed with ancient Rome. And so I'd read everything about ancient Rome. If anybody watching has ever had like the eyewitness books, then yeah, that was kind of like my go-to. And what else? Ancient Egypt, ancient Rome. Yeah. It was just a lot of fun. And I also went to an arts high school where I was just basically exploring different materials and learning a little bit about art history. So that was my younger self.
Beautiful. Did you find as you were growing and changing yourself that the way that you express artistically changed as well?
I think that when you start to, I don't know, I guess that's a hard question, because I don't really feel that, like, I know a lot of other artists have very personal types of, you know, projects where they're talking about something from their past, but I really feel that a lot of my art is just more of an expression of how I see the world. So for me, like, I'll create illustrations that have little magic surprises in them, or like little frogs that talk, or snails. So for me, it's not so much like, you know, I don't know, I think that's really kind of how I express myself through that. And so I think that for me, I don't know. Did I answer the question? I don't know. Yeah, I think that for me, that's really kind of my artistic path, and how my own personality is reflected in that. So, yeah.
So, well, back to what I was, the question is, did you find as you were growing up that your personality did change, that your perspective on life did change, and that inspired new creations or new art, or was it the same all along?
No, I don't think so. I just think that it was about me finding myself. Because as a child, I didn't really, I don't know, I think I pushed my own self away so much. And so that's why so much of my art is just coming back to myself. And I think that, yeah, I just think that, like, as I was growing, it was more, I don't know, because in school I was bullied a lot. And so I think that because of that, like, I was bullied about the shirt that I'd wear, or the pants that I had, or my answer to a question in class. So I was splitting a lot of who I was apart just to be accepted, or just to survive and not be bullied so much. So I think that later on in my life, like, everything else in high school was just like me sort of just doodling, doing whatever. But when I actually started creating art to be an artist and to express and to share with the world, it was more about me coming back into myself and learning to accept and explore the parts of me that I had disconnected myself, you know, the parts that I had disconnected. So in 2008, about 2008, I was seeing a therapist for the first time. And so she told me to kind of like go back into my history and reconnect with who I was as a kid. And so I started going to like Value Village and buying Northern Reflection shirts with birds on them and wearing them. And, you know, having been taught from, or having been exposed to people who are like, that sucks, you're a loser, like this, whatever. And so I just wore them. And I was like, this is me. I'm wearing this because I want to. And so that's why so much of my art was more of a coming back slowly across the years into more of who I am, an expression of who I truly am. I hope that answered the question. I hope so.
That answers the question very well. 'Cause I know that
Sorry.
growing up as children, a lot of the children, they have gifts, they have abilities, but they feel like currently they don't fit in. And they suppress them and they push them away only to rediscover them at a later date, where it's not their personality has changed or shifted, they're reconnecting with all the aspects of them by reconnecting with the way that they express through clothing, the way they express through words, whatever it is. So I think that's really great. Along your path, was there one or multiple like awakening moments where things kind of shifted for you?
Well, I think that, well, there were a couple, and I was trying to reflect upon a lot of these lately and try to figure out like what were my aha moments. I think one of my biggest aha moments happened in 2009, because after graduating high school and kind of trying to be an artist but not understanding how, and trying to have an art show and then not knowing what to do with it, or not having a computer to learn, you know, different computer programs that would have helped me with graphic design, or like I just was really lost. I didn't know how to proceed, but yet I had to survive and make money. So I think a lot of it was kind of me doing like receptionist jobs, working for an office, working for this, and just sort of like putting all the art stuff aside and not paying so much attention to it. And sorry, I'm going to shift my feet. And so I just think like, I don't know, in 2009, I was doing a lot of like promotional modeling and stuff. And so somebody wrote to me online and said, hey, do you want to model for a portrait, an oil portrait? And I was like, okay, no problem. That could be fun. And so it was the late John Villian, and he called me in and we started the portrait on me. And as we had the different sits, because it took multiple sits for this one portrait, and as we were sitting for a couple of hours, and then the next week a couple of hours, we kind of got into talking, and he discovered that I really liked doing art, but I hadn't done it in years. I think it had been at like 8 years at that point of not really doing anything artistic, not really tapping into that. And he said, well, if you want to, come take a class. I'm doing a workshop. And so he's like, don't worry about it. I'll give you the paper. I'll have the charcoal, everything for you. And so at this point in my life, I wasn't really sure where I was going. It was kind of just like, you know, I was working for a corporation at the time. I was doing customer service, which was wonderful, and it informs what I'm doing right now. But at the same time, it was kind of like, I wasn't really tapping into my art. And so as I took up the vine charcoal, that's what we were using, and we had the model in front of us, and I started just kind of tackling this giant empty space, because I think that for an artist, that's the scariest part, is having this giant empty space upon which you then have to put something. It's like, where do you start? But I just started. And I think within about 5 minutes, I just had this feeling come over my entire body saying to me, like, this is what you have to do for the rest of your life, no matter what. And that really changed everything. That changed everything. And that portrait turned out so beautifully. It's almost like I surprised myself, and like I didn't even know that I had that in me to create this realism portrait that was just slowly manifesting itself in front of me just through my arm. It was almost surreal. So after that, I said, okay, I'm going to apply to these art schools. I'm going to be doing more workshops. I'm going to be trying to, you know, do more illustration, do more this, do more that. And that was kind of like my breakthrough moment, getting back into art after having had such a departure for so long.
That's beautiful.
That was one big aha moment. Yeah. Thank you, John, and rest in peace, John. And thank you so much for helping me in that moment.
Were there any other moments that you can think of as well?
It's hard because right now I'm living in Milan. To anyone else who's watching, I'm living in Milan and I don't have a lot of my journals. One thing when I was very young, I think it was maybe grade 6 or grade 7, I read something about, like, maybe I was reading some Guinness World Record thing. And I read about some woman who had kept a journal every day of her life, and she was maybe 75. And that moment stuck with me. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I want to do that too. And so I tried. And all through my life, I've gone through periods where I've really, really journaled, and then periods where I haven't journaled at all. So for me right now, I'm in Milan and I don't have any of my books with me. So for me to think about these times like, oh yes, this is around the time that this started to change. Like around 2002, I started doing this differently. So I don't really have like a pinpoint moment, but I have definite times where I shifted within the way that I was operating. One of those shifts was around, again, it's like 2002, 2003, sometime around that, where I started to acknowledge that not all relationships are equal and not all of your friends are friends. And I started really kind of looking at things and being like, well, who am I surrounding myself with and how do they make me feel? And instead of being scared to leave that relationship as I was, I would just say, you know what, I don't want to be in this anymore. And that really changed things for me because I started realizing that the people who you're keeping closest to you really have an effect upon who you are, whether you realize it or not. And I think that the fact that I was really starting to look at toxic relationships, who I wanted near me, who I didn't want near me, and I think that was a huge breakthrough for me because I think that who you surround yourself with is massively influential. So that was another moment that I had, another aha moment. But yeah, when else was there another one? Yeah, and as bringing it back to the journals, because I'm sorry for everybody listening, I kind of go through these like wiggly ways of getting to my point. The reason why it's the whole thing with the journals is that if I was in Toronto where they all are, I would be able to go through my journals and look through and be like, oh yes, this was the time that this happened. But I can just kind of give you a ballpark.
Well, I think it's if the journals are there, that's great. But I like that the journals aren't there because it's getting you to kind of reflect and to think about these moments. And I think it's amazing because these are pivotal moments that do change and the ones that stick with you and kind of ingrained into your life. Like the teacher that ended up bringing you into the class to spark your life, the idea of the surroundings of individuals around your life, realizing that you have worth, that you have a choice, that you have a voice, and that you can go out that door anytime you want and you don't owe anybody any apologies. Yeah. So let's go back to when you talked about when it sparked and like you felt like, like, oh, this is what I want to do for my whole life. How did things move after that? Like, how did things progress after the next few years after you retouched with your gift?
Well, I did a lot of paintings. Any kind of workshop that I could do with John, I tried to get into and do. Even if it was just like the days or whatever, but like all those experiences really helped me. I applied to the Florence Academy. I had gone to Florence. I went to the academy there and I was, I walked around. I met the teachers. I met one of my longtime friends who went to the Florence Academy, and I love you, Chantel, if you're watching. But yeah, so I met her, and it was just like, I don't know, just trying to, and again, like I wasn't so sure how to get into it, but I just wanted to. And what happened? I don't know, I kind of bounced around trying to find like a job that I could do either as an assistant, but around that same time also, I decided to help my grandfather who was sick, and he had experienced a stroke the December before. And so a couple of months went by. He was in like a care center. It's Bridgepoint. He was at Bridgepoint for a while. And I was working as like a receptionist or something for like a real estate office. And at that point, I had a really hard time getting to him because by the time that we finished, and it was all the way uptown, and then to go all the way downtown, like I'd only get to see him for an hour. And I really wanted to spend more time with him and help him in his recovery. So actually, after this whole revelation happened with, with this drawing, I kind of took another step back away from art to help with my grandfather. And we took him from Bridgepoint and brought him home. And I was his caregiver with the help of other care workers and a nurse. So we kind of did that. So after that, after he had passed away, it kind of just like, I don't know, it left this sort of space to be filled with trying to find that path again. And so I went back to that path. I was trying to, again, to find a way back into it that could be sustainable. And then another opportunity came up where I went to Taiwan, and I was teaching English in Taiwan. So it's kind of like my path has never really been art and then do art. It was kind of like this meandering, path of all of these different things that came across my way, all these opportunities that came across my way. And now that I'm a tattoo artist and I'm, doing this, it's all of these influences, all of these things have come back. Like, for example, being a tattoo artist means that you have to work with skin, work with, looking at the skin, knowing the structure of the skin. There's a certain science to it as well that I enjoy. So, working in a plastic surgery clinic and understanding about, germs and how to keep places sanitary and how to create a sanitary environment for your clients, customer service, the whole thing with my grandfather, also like understanding about the human body and whatever. Anyway, so all of these things kind of came back to that, to that one point. But I just think that my path has never been straight with regards to art. But now that I'm tattooing and it's rolling really well, it's allowing me to support myself being an artist while making art, which I think for any artist is the hardest thing.
Well, thank you. I think for all of us, whether it's art or cooking or business, there's no straight road to anywhere that we go. That we have to go to the side roads and take a detour here and go there to better understand it. And then we use those elements later in our life to make it. They all just kind of come together later on in our lives. All the elements, all the experiences and everything. Prior to becoming a tattoo artist, was there a certain form of art that you preferred? I mean,
sorry, were you going to finish your question?
So my question was, what I meant by form was like, were you more into painting? Were you more into drawing? What kind of form of expression? Was it through a pen or was it through a paintbrush? How did you?
It's really funny because I think that for me, realism has always come very easily. I don't know why, it's just for me, the way that I draw, I just have an understanding of shadow and light and how to represent something realistically. That's always come very, very naturally to me, but I've also been extremely influenced by anything like black and white ink work. So for me, it's across my lifetime, it's always been sort of like bouncing between these two and, trying to figure out, like, do I want to do realism or do I want to do, graphic kind of ink work? Like, if anybody knows artists like Aubrey Beardsley is a really great example. His work was incredible. Anything like Art Nouveau designs. So I was always kind of like caught between these two and trying to figure out how I could combine them. And now with tattoo work, I can combine them both because I love doing realism. Like, realism to me is so much fun. And now that I'm learning how to do like really bold and very precise black work on tattoos. So I'm trying to meld the two and make them into one tattoo, which is really cool because I've got such awesome ideas for designs and stuff. So yeah, things I want to do.
I like it.
Those are my preferred types of art.
I like it because I've seen your art and I've seen what you've done, and your art is you. It's expressive. It's like magical. It's expressive. It's bubbly. It can be serious. Like you have your lines, but you also like the way that you create your art is always inspiring because like when I see your art, it's just like that's like I know it's you. Like you can put a whole bunch of artwork in front of me. I'm like, that's her. Because I know you, and then I've seen your art, and together I'm like, it's just amazing to see a person really be able to literally become almost like an alchemist where they're able to take their things inside of them and transmute them on a piece of paper and make that piece of paper a part of them. And I think that's so unique and so beautiful in what you can do. So what element of tattooing so you said that with tattooing, you had to learn things, plastic surgery, and then one is painting on a canvas. Now you're painting on a human canvas. What are some of the difficulties that you may face doing that?
Oh, there are so many. Your work is permanent. So once you put a line down, there's no going back. You need to make all of your lines very confidently. And there's so many variables. Like we could do a whole talk just upon, oh my God, the types of needles, the types of machine, and how powerful they are, the types of, the strength of the voltage that you're applying to that machine to make it go fast or slow, the types of inks you're using, and what they're made of. Like, I think this is one of the reasons I love tattooing so much, is because there's so much to explore, and I love taking everything like scientifically and breaking it down. Different types of skin. There's like, you know, people, different areas of the skin, pain tolerances on people. It's just, there's so much, I can't even get into it. But I wanted to address something you had said before about looking at different art and knowing which one is mine. I think that also one thing about my art that I love to do is I love to create worlds for people to get lost in and absorbed in. Like all of my favorite illustrations when I was growing up and when I was a kid was like, find the worm, and on every page there's a worm and you have to like look all over to find the worm. Or like one of those, there's a picture that was in a Harvey's at Victoria Park and Shepherd, I think a long time ago, like we're going back years and years, and it was called like 100 Cats and a Mouse. And I'll post it on my Instagram as a story to show everybody. But I loved that painting because there were so many cats, and like every cat was different, and one had different eyes, and this one had different colors, and like the mouse is at the bottom. But like every time I create art, it's always with the intention to sort of like draw the viewer in, let them relive a little bit of magic within their life, or remember things from their childhood, and just kind of capture wonder in people. So I just wanted to mention that because you were talking about it before. That's all I wanted to say.
I think that's amazing. When we speak about different artists, sometimes an artist needs to be in one state of mind to create versus another state of mind. Some people, they need to be in a certain place, and some people can just create whenever they can create. Is there a certain kind of mind state that you need to be in to create your art?
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. I think that, well, to create portraits and realism, to do realism, I don't need to be in a specific mind state, because for me it's just like, it's almost like being not a photocopier, because you're not making an exact copy, you're making a copy through your own eyes. So whatever it is that you're creating, like no portrait will be the same, but at the same time it's kind of like, okay, I'm looking at this, the shadows are here, the face is here. If I'm doing it from a photograph, if I'm doing it from real life, it's the same thing. Like the light is hitting the face in some way. It's more of a technical skill type of thing, so that I can do at any time. I don't have to be in any headspace. But for me to create the cartoons that I create, whether it's vampire carrots or little Andy dancing in her room, or the frogs singing in a cloud, like those things are more, I have to be in a more elevated heart space, I think, for me to create those things, because if I'm stressed, then I can't connect to that. And I think that on my most recent trip to Thailand with my husband Yussi, there was one point after a week and a half of being there, and I was like, I think we were in one of the islands, I can't remember which one, but I was like finding millipedes, and I was giving them little pieces of cucumber, and I was just like enjoying so much being in nature and looking at the little millipedes and giving them a food and being fun and going like snorkeling and being under the water and looking at fish. And I found an octopus. Like that's kind of like the space where my heart is happiest, where I can just sort of explore and allow my mind to sort of just wander and be. And that's where little Andy lives. And that's where it's easiest for me to create the fun stuff and the joyous stuff. Because if I'm in, a sad space or a stressed out space, that point is impossible for me to get to. And anything that I try to create is reflective. Like you were talking about, the artist and having things being reflective of your life. Like at that point, if I'm creating stuff, it's like a little ghost, like soap ghost, sitting on a table, or sitting on a chair, and his thought bubble is like, I'm sad today. I don't feel like going out. Like I can't create out of my imagination fun things if I'm not in a fun headspace.
Mm-hmm. So get into this kind of headspace when you're not in Thailand and you're not in other places. What do you do?
To get into a headspace like that, a good thing for me is to go for a walk, be in nature. When I was doing my apprenticeship in Milan, I was walking 45 minutes to work and 45 minutes back. And part of that walk was walking past a dog park and walking past a river, like over top of a river where there were fish and there were ducks and there were birds. And that was really fun for me because I would always stop and look inside the water and look at all the plants, and all the plants would wave like this in the river as the river flowed past them, and all the little fish would swim, and in the springtime there were little baby ducks swimming around. So that's always great for me because I love to see like animals, nature. I love to inspect like small little microcosms where there's like little bits of moss and leaves and maybe an ant crawling around. And then I think like, what is the ant doing? Where is he going? What's his job today? Like, what is he doing? Like, no one really ever thinks what bugs are up to, but they're always up to stuff. So things like that really help me to connect back into that childlike wonder space, that happy heart space, no matter what's going on with me. Or playing with dogs. I love playing with dogs. Dogs are excited about everything all the time. They're just like, oh my gosh, somebody's here to play with me. Oh, maybe they have a snack. Oh, look, it's a ball or even a piece of paper. Like, here's a box. Like, let's explore the box. Like, to me, that type of simple wonder is really fun. And it allows a lot of imagination. Or playing with kids, like when you have a kid that wants to like play with trucks or trains, like for you to kind of get back into that space and play with a kid and just enter into their world and also add to it, then that's super fun for me. So every time I'm feeling sad, if I can find a dog and I have to like go out and find one, sometimes I'll see one on the street and I'll just want to like touch it. Like I'll just be like, touch, poke the dog. You know what I mean? Like, hi dog. So anyways, anything like that makes me happy. And also, of course, talking to family and friends. That's also very helpful as well. But I think just to kind of tap into that childlike wonder, anything that provides that is really good for an artistic headspace like mine.
So moving, I want to get back to one of the things that we were talking about because, you know, you were talking about the canvas and then you're talking about tattooing and you can't go back on tattooing. So if you walk into a situation, and the reason I'm saying this because a lot of us do walk into these situations where there's a task that you need to complete. For example, you have somebody waiting to get a tattoo from you, and you're not in that headspace and you're not feeling it. Is there something that you say you do to yourself to get yourself ready for it?
No, I think that when I'm tattooing, it doesn't matter what headspace I'm in because that is a pre-planned tattoo. It is something that I've already created to their specifications, or it's something that I have created myself that I am ready to put on their skin. So there's no, what is the word, ambiguity, I guess. When I'm walking into a tattoo appointment, it's like, okay, I know exactly what I have to do and I just do it. Or I'm like, okay, I think this is the best method of applying it, and then I do it and it turns out. But I think that when you're a tattoo artist, like, unless you've had lots and lots of experience of just, you know, freehanding stuff on the body, when you're using a stencil, when you're using a plan, you just go according to plan. And in that case, I don't really need to be, you know, I still do tap into a higher source. Like sometimes when I'm making art or when I'm making a tattoo, I get so excited and happy, or I get lost within that focus. Like there's a laser type focus that happens where, especially if I'm doing really fine lines or edges of things, like that's, you know, I really have to just like shut everything else out. So there is an element of that creative force, but it's not the same as inventing stuff or accessing my imagination. So I can tattoo from any headspace at all because it's more of just like there's a plan and there's a path forward on that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
So as the art is a creation of your world, the way that you see it, how do you feel when you share it with the world?
Right now, I feel excited, but it took a long time for me to get there because, I don't know, growing up, well, it always makes you very vulnerable to show things to other people. Because either it's something, it could be either personal or just something that you've drawn and you're afraid they're going to be criticizing it out of like, you know, what is this that they've created? Or from a technical standpoint, like, oh, look at the way they drew that. And sometimes it's a combination of both. But I just think that as you're growing up, you just have to sort of let that go. It's part of the critique. Like one thing that I was very lucky for was that my arts high school had a class size of about I think we started off at 30, and then as the years went by, people kind of left and went to other schools. And so by the end of it, I think we had 15 people in our class. And that was really, really good for us because we learned how to critique properly. And so as time went on, it's like I became unafraid of showing things to people and getting feedback. Yeah, what was I going to say about that? I forget. But yeah, I think in terms of like showing other people, I don't know, I kind of lost it after a while. And I learned that, you know, even if I show something to everybody, it's just kind of like, okay, here's what I did now, and then I'm going to create something else. Like that attachment to that kind of left. And now, of course, we're in like the age of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and whatever, and people are just posting stuff up left, right, and center. And so I guess now the scare for any artist is that their work will be taken and copied. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing moving forward for artists. So now or for me, it's not so much showing people, because now I have a lot of confidence and a lot of like, oh, well, if someone doesn't like it, then they don't like it. I think also like with art, when you're creating things, or even with who you are, like everyone is so different, and you're always going to be attracting people who like your art and who are sort of similar or who understand you, and other people who don't get it. It's okay. Just create it and let everyone else decide whether they like it or not, you know? I hope that made sense, I think.
It makes sense, because what you're saying, it's not just art, it's humans. It's like, I'm going to show you who I am, and if you don't like it, that's okay.
Yep. And I think it's good for every artist to get to that point where they just kind of create and tap into who they are, go back to who they were as children, really tap into their own experiences and values and their likes and dislikes, and just put it out there. And if it's great, then it's great. And if it's not, then that's okay. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just think that in terms of being an artist and exposing your work, it's a vulnerable thing. And but after a while, you kind of just get used to it. And I think also the feedback from other people when they're talking about how much they love something, or in my case, now that I'm making tattoos, for people to continually write to me and just tell me how much they love their tattoo and how they always look at it and how they're so happy, and like that's huge for me. And I think it's beautiful. And yeah, I just think yeah, showing your artwork makes you vulnerable, but you just have to kind of put it out there and just be free about that. So
I think what you're saying, what I really like about it, is just very symbolic, because you use the word artwork, but if I were to take the word artwork and change it with emotions, it works the exact same way.
oh, yeah.
And I think it is a very emotional thing while you're creating and you're putting this out to the world. But I think it's a very great lesson that you just shared with individuals, because it does make a difference. And the one thing is, it's just like, I've met a lot of individuals in this world that do different things, but you love what you do. Like, you love it. Like, you eat it, you breathe it, you sleep it. It's you have it on your body. You're the only tattoo artist that I know currently that has been able to tattoo an amazing art onto their body just because you're like, oh, I can practice. Like, that says something so amazing about the kind of person that you are. The fact that you're like, I'm going to use my own body as a canvas, and I'm going to do it myself. And like, that's just mind blowing. I really do admire it, and I love that about you.
Do you want to see the one that I did before? I actually touched it up because and it's true. Like I was here in Milan for my apprenticeship, and I didn't really know too many people, and I need people to tattoo, because as a tattoo artist, you can try on fake skin or you can try on like an orange, but it's not the same as tattooing on human skin. So I did this tattoo design, which was my own design. I did it on my lower leg. And just 2 days ago, I touched up all the lines. And I'm going to try to see if I can show you on the camera. Let me know when you can see.
Yeah, I can see. Oh, more to the right. Yeah, there we go. Oh, look at that.
So I redid all the lines.
Beautiful.
So I did all the lines on here. The shading has all been done before. That was older, but it's like a year and a half. So that was my tattoo. And I did one on the other leg too, but I won't show that to everybody. They're going to have to figure that one out.
Also, for anybody who is listening to this on a podcast, we'll make sure that we include all her links so you can see the tattoos and the things that she has created as well, which is important. So while you're in the room, you're working with another human. What are some of the challenges that you deal with when you're working with when you're trying to do art with the other person, put a tattoo on another person?
What are the challenges that I face when I'm tattooing someone?
So I mean, like, I'll explain more what I mean by that. So if somebody comes in and they're fidgety, or it's very painful, or they're moving around, or they're not staying still as humans tend not to do. Do you have any techniques, any things that you use, things that you say to the person while they're in this state or while they're moving around?
Well, I think that for me, making somebody comfortable is absolutely 100%. Like, it's just so, so important. It comes to me, I've been trained so much in customer service, and I'm also very empathetic, I guess. So for me, like, to know that they're comfortable and to know that they're okay is the first and foremost in my mind. So if they need a blanket, if they're getting cold, because sometimes when your body's experiencing pain, you get chilly. So I'll always make sure that they're comfortable. Are they warm enough? Is the music okay? Do they not want music? How are they feeling? And I'm always kind of checking in on them. If they're fidgety, then I just have to be like, just for the best job possible, you just have to, breathe. Sometimes I ask them just to breathe deeply and to really, kind of process the pain through more of a meditative kind of way. Because if you just kind of focus on your breath and on just feeling the pain, but not really acknowledging it, if that makes any sense, then it's easier to take. But of course, everybody has their limits. Some people, it's like after an hour. Some people can go for 2 hours, some people 3, some people 4, some people 8. Like, the longest tattoo session I've ever done was 12 hours. That was a lot of time. And that was on a girl's back, and she was just like amazing. I think she fell asleep at one point, which was amazing. Some people do fall asleep depending on where they're getting tattooed, I guess, or depending on their tolerance or how they process pain. But I just think that for me, like, when I'm tattooing someone, to make them as comfortable as possible, to make sure that they have enough to eat if they ever want to take a break. So it's just about checking in and really, really letting them know that their comfort is the most important thing, aside from creating the most perfect art possible.
I think that's great, especially as you talk about being in a meditative state, breathing in and understanding the pain, understanding where it's coming from. Because in meditation, that's what they teach you. They teach you that this is not you. But when you're in that moment and you're constantly getting practice and to do it again and again, there's certain thresholds that you can go for. So maybe 5 minutes a day, maybe 10 minutes tomorrow, maybe an hour, and it's very representative on the individual. But for the fact that you hold space for the individual and you're also very respected and you make sure that they're comfortable is absolutely incredible, because you're getting something that's going to stay on the body for the rest of your life. And it's almost like, well, it's not just the tattoo, it's the experience, it's the person,
Yes.
right? Like, that's
Absolutely.
remember. It's almost like it's a ritual of passage to something. You're putting this onto you to acknowledge or to celebrate or to express a part internally inside of yourself. And for you, holding the ritual, you can call yourself the shaman of tattoos, in the sense that, like, well, I mean in the sense that you're holding space for the person. You're making sure that they're going through you're creating a ritual and an opportunity and an environment for them to be present, to get the tattoo.
Yeah, I think the experience is key, and you could have a beautiful tattoo and not have a great experience with the tattoo artist. Like, that's why it's important. Like, meet the tattoo artist before, see if you can see if you gel. But for me, I really think it's the whole experience. It's not just getting a tattoo. It's entering into the space that you're getting tattooed, being welcomed by the people who are there, everyone making sure that you're comfortable, that you have maybe a snack in case you're getting a bit faint, whatever it is, just whatever it is that the customer needs, like, make sure that they have it, and that they know that they have it, and they know that they can count on you to help them if they need help. And it's just a very trusting environment. And I think it's really beautiful, like, spending time with people. That's another thing. You're spending, like, sometimes an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or maybe more with somebody in a very close proximity. Like, they're exposing themselves to their vulnerability in a way, because I've even had some times with, like, some people want to be very stoic and, like, oh no, I don't feel any pain, but you can see it on their face. And so you just kind of, like, have to ease them and let them know it's all right. But Yeah, it's a really beautiful moment. I think I've had such great times with so many of my clients, and I always check up on them afterwards. It's also the aftercare, like making sure they're okay the next day. If they have any questions, like letting them know that you're there for them, and then checking in a couple of months later, and just keeping in that contact. I just think it's really important. So,
Well,
yeah.
it's just everything that you say is just very transferable into life of how to treat people, because checking on people, making sure that they're okay, like a lot of the things that you say are, you can, if you were to take the word tattoo out and you were to place it across any kind of industry, it goes so well through it all. And that explains why, you're really great at what you do, because you care and you want to make sure that the human is feeling seen, they're feeling heard, and they're feeling understood throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
So, last question before we go would be, if you
Exciting.
if you could say anything to your younger self, what would it be?
Oh gosh, such a question. To my younger self. Such a big question, Aaron. What do I say? I think to let my younger self know, I think there's a couple of things that are coming in off the top of my head. Leaning into who you are, just lean into who you are and be unapologetic about who you are. I went through so many years of I don't know, and I think everyone does. I think a lot of people have these years where you're not really connected to yourself. And I just think leaning into who you are, really connecting with who you are, and then celebrating that. That's really important. And just ignoring judgment. Another thing to my younger self is be aware of who you're surrounding yourself with, and know that the energies of other people, or the ways that they perceive things, the things that they say, those all have influences on you. Even if you try to be really strong and block them out, we're human. We absorb the energies from other people. So I think that for me, telling my younger self to be careful about who you surround yourself with, and also to, not to be afraid to walk away from friendships, not to be afraid to leave a situation, and just the knowledge that you're going to be okay on your own, because you're awesome and you're enough. Yeah.
Okay, sis, I just want to acknowledge you and just say thank you so much for who you are. It's been an honor to just watch your growth, your change, your development, the way that you're constantly just chasing after your dreams, and the way that, you're on a pursuit of growth and development that also inspires the people around you, and that you really do care about what you do. You care about the people in your life, and you do honor yourself by making the choices that you need to make, and also for being an awesome sister.
Yay, you're an awesome brother. Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you also for getting me to do this. I've admittedly be a little bit nervous, but it's been so much fun, and an opportunity to kind of remember things about myself, delve into who I am and why, and analyze things. And I've been thinking about things for the past couple of days, and it's been great also just for me and where I am right now, because I'm about to embark on some very big journeys. Anybody that's watching or listening, I guess I haven't really told anybody yet, but I'm coming back to Toronto in January. So I haven't really told anybody, but there you go. So there's a lot of stuff going on in my own heart and my own mind. And so all of these questions, and also watching all of your talks, because I watched a couple of the ones that you've already created. And I just wanted to, just let you know that it's really exciting. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
Of course.
On the Aaron Show.
So, before we go, where can people find you?
Okay, I'm on Instagram, andy._.fisher. And that's Instagram, which I have to update a little bit more because I've been really bad. And I'm also on Facebook, Andy Fisher Tattoo. I'm on TikTok, which I'm exploring. I haven't done very many TikTok things yet because I'm still trying to understand what it's all about. But I'm going to be on TikTok doing drawing stuff and whatever. And other than that, you'll find me in Toronto from, I guess, the end of January onwards. There's my mother. Hello, Mother. I can see you. I see Lavon. I see Dorian. Hi, guys. Hello. Hello. I'll see you guys soon. Yeah, that's exciting. The fact that people are watching this is kind of like, I'm a little bit shy,
It's
but
okay.
that's okay.
You're incredible. And thank you so much, sis. And we shall do this again in the future.
Okay, I love you lots.
Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.